Today I'm delighted to be back with Ben and Tom Thorns. This time we are in their office in Altrincham rather than their house that we recorded the last video in. It's great to see a bit behind the scenes of where these guys work, and having spoken to them quite a lot over the past few months, they have got a lot going on. So this is where the magic happens, so to speak. We're back today halfway through 2017 to catch up with them on their plans. They're taking part in our goals series this year. You just have heard the interview with Mark Wilton, and he's doing some great stuff in the SA world. Now we get a chance to catch up with Ben and Tom 6 months into the year to find out exactly what their goals were, how they're tracking towards achieving them throughout the year, and find out a little bit about what's worked well and maybe where there are some areas of improvement. So guys, first of all, welcome back to the show. Great to have you. Great to be on video again.
Yeah.
You're kind of our guinea pigs on this. The first video we did was with you guys. The second video we've done is with you guys. So
it's been a lot of videos since
once we've ironed it out, we'll maybe roll it out to the masses. But thank you for taking part in this.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
How have things been overall? Last 6 months. It was January that we last spoke, and you had big plans for the year. You happy with how things are going?
Yeah, we've changed a few things which we'll talk through, but yeah, on the whole things are going well. So especially the rent to rent, we decided we'd push forward this year. So that's gone really well. So we've got 5 deals signed up, and there's more in the pipeline, but we weren't really happy with the amount of time it takes.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of time. It's a big time investment, the rent to rent, nurturing the relationships with agents, and just the lead time, with the landlords as well. So although it has been good, so it's added, I think we've got a note here, 3,200 net income currently. Yeah. And there's more there, so a lot of landlords that we've got deals with have got other properties that they're keen to bring to us. Which we've just taken the view that, okay, well we've got 5, which is where we want it to be at this point in time. There's others that are going to come, but we don't want it to be our main focus going forward anymore, just because of the amount of time it takes. And then what we've also been doing is the land sourcing.
Yeah.
So we've kind of looked at the two. We've looked at how much income the rent-to-rent activities generated, and then the potential income from developing and sourcing off-market land deals, and just decided that we're much better off focusing our time on the off-market.
That's the thing. I think when we sit and look at how much time we've invested in the rent-to-rent stuff and in the income we've got, it's good stable income that we've built there. But if we invested that amount of time in the land sourcing stuff, it would be a game changer essentially, because we've already got some good results from the land sourcing stuff from a lot less time input.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting looking at all that.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things there that we'll pick up on when we get into the details of what you've been up to. But for the benefit of people who maybe didn't catch your first interview, let's do a bit of a recap of what you set out 2017 looking to achieve. And I think there was an income target which was backed up by 2 main investing strategies. So talk to me a bit about what your plans were back in January.
Yeah, that's it. So the big one that we wanted to achieve was £12,000 additional net revenue to the into the business, and per month. Sorry, yeah. That's that's how we broke that down into a series of things. So there was the rent to rent, commercial conversions. There was one at the start of the year that we were looking at, which would have been great, good deal, but unfortunately that fell through in the end. Too many legal problems.
Okay.
So we can talk a bit about that as well. But it was effectively broken down into a combination of rent to rent and then commercial conversions. And I guess the big change that we've had halfway through the year is just thinking, we're going to focus on the land and treat that as revenue effectively from developing. So a bit of a pivot for us, really.
Okay. And the driving force behind that £12,000 per month, I remember we spoke about this briefly, but was that a target that you felt was achievable in the time frame, or was it more related to that's what you wanted to add to your income from a lifestyle point of view?
Yes, it was an achievable target, and it was a mixture of things really. It was going some way towards replacing the income we took from another business we have, the digital marketing business, but it also allowed us to scale the property business. A portion of that revenue, of that income would have gone to cover staff costs, the office, and things like that. So it's the level of per month cash flow we needed to scale to where we wanted to be at the end of the year.
Okay, and just on a complete side note, talk to me very briefly about this office, because that, from a property strategy point of view, is something that's not really spoken about a huge amount, but the figures on it for the owner of this building sound phenomenal.
It was an eye-opener for us.
Yeah.
We were looking for office space in Altrincham, and there wasn't an awful lot of it. This was one of the best value ones we found, and it's we wouldn't, if we convert this to a HMO, which is when we look at buildings like this, with retail and space above, we look at, right, could we put a HMO above it, could we put flats above it? We wouldn't make anywhere near the amount of money if this was converted to a HMO as it has been done now, as converted to serviced offices.
Wow.
It's such a simple conversion as well when you put offices in a building like this.
Yeah, you were saying less kitchen facilities, less bathroom facilities.
You essentially get more floor space given over to offices than you do to, within a HMO you've got a lot of communal space to put in.
Sure.
Minimise that in an office,
Yeah.
it just needs to be a little small kitchen and facilities.
So everything is income producing.
Everything's income producing, and they're making more per square metre rental wise than we would if it was the HMO.
Since it's piqued our interest, we've noticed a few local agents, when we're on the Lending West course actually, people were saying that there's a real lack of supply of this kind of office in Manchester as well. Just these small serviced offices. So you see the big offices, they're falling by the wayside and getting converted to resi.
Yeah.
But it seems that smaller businesses or even bigger businesses that just need more flexible working space, smaller working spaces, that seems to be the trend. So yeah, it's something we've got half an eye on.
Interesting. Definitely something that I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in when you compare it to HMOs plus, maybe 10-20%. It's definitely an interesting prospect. But in terms of your own strategy then, so we had that 12 grand a month target, and I think you said by this stage in the year you were looking to have maybe 5 or 6 rent-to-rents up and running, so you've basically hit that. And we always knew that the land sourcing, the commercial conversion side of things was going to be a slower burn. It's interesting though that you said the rent-to-rent is quite time intensive, and because that was supposed to be the quick element of this strategy, right? So that hasn't been the case. That has taken more time to nurture those relationships than you expected.
I suppose when we look at it on the face of it, we've got 5 rent-to-rent deals agreed now, and I think we're negotiating with 5 landlords. 2 of them we've already got deals agreed with on about 8 other properties. So on the face of it, halfway through the year, we've made, the income target is where we'd expect it to be on rent-to-rent, and the future pipeline, without putting any more outbound marketing effort in, is actually really strong. So it's definitely served its purpose and got us to where we want to be, but we don't want to be committing the same amount of time that we've already put into it going forward.
Okay.
Half of that is because I don't think we need to with the contacts we've made already with landlords.
Yeah.
It's just a case of waiting for more of their properties to come vacant, and then they're happy just to hand them over.
Okay. But I guess once that cycle with the existing landlords wears itself out, you're not actively going to be pursuing more rent-to-rent deals.
We're just going all out on development and land sourcing now.
That's quite a big switch from
it is. It's a really big switch, and the logic there, the thinking behind it really is that that will create big cash injections into the business, which we will then invest into our own portfolio. So we will add more HMOs, build to let. We'll probably do a bit of that. So we'll add to our own portfolio and grow it that way, but it's really through the developments that we're going to do.
And despite the change in heart from your own point, the fact that doesn't necessarily fit in with your priorities anymore, you did phenomenally well. You said you've got a digital marketing agency, so I presume that comes into it. To find these landlords, to nurture those relationships, is something that a lot of people struggle with. So although you're not going to be pursuing it as aggressively, what things did work from you from a marketing point of view to generate those leads in the first place?
We've created a really good system for sourcing them, essentially. It's kind of it's alerts on the portals like Rightmove. Our VA then enters them into a custom series of Podio apps that we use, and from there we can do one-click letter generation.
Is that on the sale, when you say alerts on Rightmove, sales side or rental side?
Rental side.
Okay.
It can be anything essentially, because we use a very similar thing for the land sourcing. It's just that the input doesn't come from Rightmove, it comes from targets that we've identified via mapping software or out on foot. But yes, it's the apps we've created in Podio. Once the data's entered in by our VA, it can all be checked, and then we just click one little tag in Podio and it auto generates the letter. It can be printed, signed and sent out. It auto assigns a task after 4 weeks to follow up with that one, to either generate another letter or make the call if it's an agent. So that's been really good, and again we've just copied that across for the land sourcing. It's essentially a series of apps that just handle property sourcing within Podio.
Okay. We tried a couple of things. So we tried letters, so that was capturing properties as soon as they became available on the rental market, and then depending on how good they looked, sometimes getting land reg details and going direct to landlord, or other times thinking we'll just send one to the property. often landlords are in there in between tenants,
Yeah.
just checking on things and doing a bit of work. So we tried that.
And would you try with the agent as well, or did you always go straight to the landlord?
Yeah, we've done that. So we have actually developed some good relationships with agents as well.
Okay.
So we track them now. So rather than just blanket looking at what comes on the market, we're more interested in what comes on with those agents. So we've kind of consolidated our activity. So we can see growth in that.
Once
now,
they're
taking
comfortable
less
with
over
it,
time.
they're happy to suggest it to other landlords. You've proven that it works now. You've proven that you've got
The
a track
agents
record.
essentially know which landlords will go for it.
Okay.
They get a lot of stock on that's like accidental landlords, or
Yeah.
might just be somebody who's thinking about renting a house for a short period of time while they go somewhere with work or something. And the agents know which landlords they've got that are full-time landlords that are perhaps kind of getting sick of the day-to-day.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been a really good hit rate.
The other thing we did which worked really well is we hired somebody who was doing outbound calls, telesales for us. And she had a lot of experience in sales, running sales teams. She actually lives in Turkey now, so she'd moved her and her family to Turkey, but really enjoyed just doing a little bit of sales work here and there. So
She's done it on a freelance basis.
Yeah, freelance basis. Yeah. So we had all the data in Podio, and then Kerry would go in there and she'd make calls and she could update it, assign tasks to us or anyone in the team who needed to go and do viewings. And so we've got this whole catalogue of data in the CRM in Podio. So it did work really well.
Yeah.
But it's just for us, it's one of those things that it does take a lot of time, a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And when we were comparing that to the land sourcing, like Tom was saying, very similar setup. But when you look at potential GDV and
you only need one or
net
two of them
profit,
to come off.
That's it.
yeah, that's
Okay.
it. It's a big difference.
But those systems must have helped hugely. Rather than having to go through that manual process consistently, it just shows a lot of people talk about systems on the podcast, generally within the property world and across every business. They talk about the value of systems. I think a lot of people getting started out don't necessarily take that to heart, and they think, oh, I'll just do it myself. It's going to take me too long to set up Podio, to set up alerts and Rightmove, to get a VA or a freelancer working for us. But I mean, from your point of view, those systems have allowed you to have the success that you're having
just
now.
the change when you configured it to create the letters was incredible, wasn't
Because
it?
you think beforehand, Louise in the office having to manually pull out the address, where it was going to, the property it was relating to, put it into a Word document, PDF it and print it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, all that data was in Podio, so it was just copied and pasted out. So now it's just automatically generated from one click, and then you can print it.
And the thing is, even you guys are quite techy, you're quite savvy when it comes to computers, and I imagine you've done a chunk of that yourselves. But even if you're not, if you understand what you want it to do, again, go and find a freelancer to do it, go and find someone on Fiverr or Upwork.
The help on Podio, we've got a direct contact at Podio. I had a few questions on setting up the flows, and he was there just within Podio. You just pull it into the sides, chat straight to them, and they can help you out with it. So yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, and you mentioned you've got 5 up and running now, which is great for within 6 months of the year. The average sort of property that you've been looking for, I assume they're all residential. You've not had to spend a huge amount of work converting them. Are they mainly set up?
A real mix actually.
Okay.
So a couple of 7 beds,
Yeah.
and they didn't really need much because they were existing HMOs.
Okay.
And there's one that we have taken to a 6-bed HMO, 6-bed licensed HMO, so that needed a little bit of work. It had a big renovation project on it, but the landlord was just planning on letting it as a single let property, but it wasn't really suited to it. It was obviously really big, and it didn't have much of a garden. It just wasn't really going to work for a family in that area.
Yeah.
So it really made sense as a HMO, and the landlord saw sense in the idea straight away. But there was a lot of compliance things to be done in their fire doors, fire systems. So we spent more on that one, but he was happy with a 7-year arrangement, so it made complete sense to us. And then there's a 4-bed which didn't need much work on it at all.
Yeah.
But we had net profit on it. It's great. It's about 550, wasn't it?
You said you said you're up about 3.5 grand over those 5, so sort of £600-700 a month from each property.
Yeah, I think they range from about 550 to 850, don't they?
And it's just slotted into existing processes.
Yeah.
So letting side of things that we do with our current HMO portfolio is all really well systemised.
So now that they're up and running, that's just a steady trickle of income
Yeah.
every month, which is great. All the hard work is going to pay off for up to 7 years, I guess, and a lot of them will renew as well because you make it a hassle-free process for them.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you've had, before we go on to the land sourcing side of things, because that's really interesting, but just to wrap up what you've been up to in the first 6 months of the year, you've had 1 or 2 of your own projects on the go as well.
Yeah. So we're just about finished in Stockport now, aren't we?
So the commercial conversion that we already had agreed, that was started on site about January this year, I think, didn't it, or maybe just before.
Yeah.
So that's coming to the end now. It's almost ready to go. That's a commercial conversion to resi on the PD. So we're going to be renting it out as a single unit initially, and then taking it to a 6-bed HMO after a period of time. Then that's almost done. Carpet should be going down the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic.
We've got the kind of final inspection through from building control, just a few things to sort out there. But that's looking really good. That shouldn't go. If everything kind of comes together at the end as we expect it, that'll be a really good deal. That was with a JV partner there. I think the current projected ROI on it is kind of it's like 80% best case. I think it should work out.
So big refinance at the end.
Yeah, 50 to 60% ROI.
It just depends on the valuation, which we're still a bit unsure about.
It's always one of these things until you get that piece of paper. There's a little bit of concern there, but you know your figures, so I'm sure it will be around about that anyway. Okay, so I guess the main thing that is of interest to me from a selfish point of view, but also is going to be your focus over the next 6 months then, is this land sourcing process, which you've been working on for a while, but you're going to start scaling that up now.
Yeah, so again, it's one of those things that takes a long time, and that's what we've realised over the course of the year, but it's a great way to build a pipeline for development projects. So it doesn't come quickly, especially when you're talking about a land assembly, which one of the potential projects that we're really close with is a land assembly. So there's 3 people involved in it. 2 out of 3 have agreed in principle, and the last one is keen, and just we haven't managed to have the final conversation and negotiation yet. So that's looking really promising. But yeah, it takes a long time. But I guess what we didn't know at the start of the year was exactly what the numbers would look like, how many letters we'd have to send out to get to the point where we've got 3 in advanced stages of negotiation that are looking really promising. And at this point, we can obviously look back at the amount of time taken, the cost associated with it, and just make the decision that, if that makes absolute sense. If we scale that activity for the last 6 months of the year, should be in a much different position by the end of it. There should be some really lucrative deals in the pipeline.
And I mean, I know that it's a fantastic system again that you guys have put in place. That the processes behind this are phenomenal. But talk, high level at least. The sourcing process, what does that look like? How are you finding these potential options?
A number of ways. So we've got a past catalogue that we've used where we've just snapped photos of sites as we're kind of walking past, driving.
We spoke about this in January. You found one on the tram and you thought that looks interesting, take a picture, add it to your...
So we had that catalogue already. We use Land Insights as it's a mapping software which also overlays planning history, ownership details. You can get the actual land reg owner's details. So we'll scour Google Maps in Land Insights to find potential sites. From there we use the OS Maps level, which is a much more granular view of what properties are, so you can spot gaps between properties, large spaces. We'll go out on foot and on bikes, just if we have a really good target area where we know the values are high, we'll just scour them and just take photos and put them in. So that all of those processes come together to create a source of the data, targets that we want. They'll then get saved into Land Insights. If they've been taken on foot, they'll be put into Land Insights as well. We just tag it up as to Podio in Land Insights, and then our VA comes behind and puts all the data for each site into Podio, and then it goes through this process of one-click letters generated, it gets sent out. After 8 weeks it is on the land, there's a task assigned to send a follow-up letter if we haven't heard anything back. And then again after 16 weeks, and I think what we're going to do now after 16 weeks is go and knock on doors for the really juicy ones, because that's where 2 of our really big leads have come from recently. They were great sites, we sent them letters, hadn't had a response, knocked on the door, the guy opened the door and said, I've got your letters at the side, and I was going to give you a call.
Meaning to call you,
never did.
Stuck on the fridge, that type of thing. But
so by that time, he's had communication with us over the past 2-3 months. You walk through the door, you're already friends with him. It was a really easy conversation.
It's great.
And within 2 weeks they'd agreed in principle to the offer we put in front of them.
There was another interesting angle associated with the land assembly that we're doing, in that an element of the land had a failed planning application on it. So this is something else that we've learned over the last 6 months. It's a really good area for us to focus on, failed planning applications. So the people who had the failed planning application weren't responding to our letters because they obviously thought it wasn't developable, but all that needed to happen was we needed to bring other people into the deal. And a bit easier for someone externally to come in and do that.
Less emotion involved.
That's it. There's someone else negotiating with those other parties rather than you striking the conversation with your neighbour who probably doesn't want you to develop in your garden anyway. So failed plan applications are something that we're going to really push forward with now.
I was just going to say that the platform you mentioned, Land Insight, that has an element of searchability on failed planning applications.
We can do that. There's air rights as well. So above buildings that have possibly got flat roofs.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a few areas that we're going to start adding into the sourcing activity as well.
Okay, and this is all across the northwest. Are you spreading your net fairly wide in terms of where you're looking?
Northwest. But now another really interesting thing that we did was we started looking at property heat maps. We've got a fairly good idea of our area in South Manchester, but we wanted to cast the net a bit wider to the whole of the northwest, but obviously didn't know all areas, Liverpool, parts of Chester. So we started looking at property heat maps because we wanted to target high value areas.
Okay.
And that's given us a really good list of places that we can work through now, hasn't it? So
places that we previously discounted as being, not very good areas, probably wouldn't have the right values. Even in those areas, there's pockets of nice areas that are really expensive, and we found some good targets in those.
So hopefully means that we're really kind of honing in on the right areas as well.
Great stuff. And this is really just stage one, the land sourcing. It can be income producing if you start to source too many deals, then you can handle yourself. You can maybe sell them on for a fee. Obviously lots of people are looking for land deals, but I guess the real profit potential comes from actually building out these sites, and that's ultimately why you're going through this process of sourcing land.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to be developing. Yeah.
And the ones that you're either secured so far or that you're in quite advanced negotiation stages with, what sort of developments are you looking at on those sites?
So we've got 3 that we're in reasonably advanced negotiations with. One of them it would be 5 dwellings, a pair of semis, and then a kind of terrace of 3, 4-bed houses, kind of family homes. The other one, which is the 3 landowners that we've got 2 agreements on so far, that would be for the 3 dwellings, 3 family homes.
Yeah.
Again, a pair of semis and a detached. Potential as well for a 4th garden to come into it and get the 4th property as well. It's each kind of garden we scale on, we get another property essentially. So that's not necessary though. We're working it out on 3 to begin with. Just because we don't want to have to negotiate with 4 people straight off the bat.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd one would be an apartment block in the Lake District.
Okay.
It's a bit of a tricky one, that one, because it would be local occupancy restrictions. So they would have to be, it's essentially 30% off market value.
Yeah.
But because that is known up front, the landowner is aware that their land value is massively reduced from what it would be if there was no local occupancy restrictions. So whilst it's quite hard to sell to them, the value of your land is X, when they're probably 10 years ago it would have been about the same. It's a good one to build because we would be building affordable homes, so they'd sell really easily, which is quite interesting.
That's not necessarily going to fit into the monthly income target that you're looking for, but the profit potential on development deals is pretty impressive. So, do you have any idea on the figures of any of them?
All of the ones that we're looking at the minute, I think they range from minimum 250k profit in them to anywhere up to about 450.
Okay.
For some of them, obviously, if we got all of them signed up and agreed, we wouldn't be able to develop all of them out, so we would just get the planning and then sell on at that point. But that's the kind of range that we're looking at, the kind of size of deals.
And the first couple that you secure, at least you'll be starting to build them out yourselves. You're not going to be sourcing anything on initially until you get capacity.
That's it. I mean, some of them as well, we might be able to pipeline them, so it might be that there's a longer option period on them. It's all down to what we can negotiate at the time. So we're hopeful that by doing this we can develop a pipeline, and we can see that we'll have to decide how many projects we want running concurrently, or what's possible, or where we want to scale to. But we'll basically keep on building that pipeline. But then if the deals are good and we do get good planning gain on them and there's potential to sell them on, definitely consider that.
Super. Okay, so let's switch now to look at the next 6 months. Like I said at the start, we're halfway through the year now, and we want to wrap this up towards the end of December to see exactly what you have been able to achieve in this 12-month spell. Where do you expect to be? Let's start with the rent-to-rent side of things, because that's, I guess, the smaller piece of the puzzle over the next 6 months. You said earlier you're going to continue with this to an extent. Do you expect the landlords that you've got in the pipeline to bring you many more properties over that period?
It looks like there could be 8 in total there with the existing landlords that we're in negotiations with.
8 additional, or
8 in total? So it'll be an additional 3. There's potentially more. So some of them we're testing areas, and they've got more properties in those areas. We just don't know for sure if it really works there.
So 2 of the landlords are student landlords, and they've signed students up for this year. we kind of hit them too late essentially.
Okay.
They've said next year, once those students move out at the end of June next year, I just want to give them all to you.
So there's potential for this time next year as well.
Yeah.
They're really keen, they want to work with
And they're
us.
in our core area as well,
Okay.
of that South Manchester band.
To retain as students or to switch to professional HMOs?
Professionals, they would be.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a potential uplift in value from that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like I say the easier piece of the puzzle then. The land sourcing and then the ongoing development is a much slower burn.
Yeah.
So what are the plans over the next 6 months? I guess it's scaling up the sourcing activity.
That's it, yeah.
Any plans to get any of these 3 that you're negotiating on under offer at any point? What sort of timeframes are we looking at on those?
We're really hoping that within the next few weeks we've got one on under offer, so we've got it signed up on option agreements basically. And then by the end of the year we want to have 10 really viable sites in advanced stages of negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're intending to scale our activity to the point where we're identifying 100 new sites a month and getting letters out to 100 new sites every month.
100 a month?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. That's what we want to do until the end of the year. So that should put us in a really strong position by the end of the year.
What sort of return response rate would you expect on that from what you've seen so far?
We're generally looking at getting about a 10% response rate to the initial letters.
Okay.
At that stage, once you do a little bit more digging into them, it could be as many as 30% of those you just kind of scratch off. There might be issues with the site, or it's already got planning on it. It's owned by a developer. There's plans on it.
Yeah.
And then you get some people coming back and their valuation expectations are just crazy. So you scratch those up again. I think we've had about probably, I don't know, it's pretty tricky. Probably about 2 each month should get into a decent stage of negotiation, where you would potentially go with them. But again, you might give them the offer and they think it's too low and it just doesn't stack up. It's tricky. Landowners don't generally know what their land's worth and how to value it, and estate agents don't either. We've been negotiating with land on the market with estate agents, and they just kind of price it as if there's no profit in the deal.
Yeah.
So it's
educating the people who you're negotiating with as well.
Yeah.
Trying to get them to understand how to do residual land valuation, build costs.
It is very much about the sales process and being a personable, people person. Right, it's not a spreadsheet activity, is this? It's about, like you say, knocking on doors, shaking hands, educating them through the process. And yeah, it sounds like a large volume, 600 over the course of 6 months, letters going out, but you knock off the 90% that don't respond, you knock off 30% that are non-starters, you're down to a fairly small number already.
That's it. I think from that we'll be able to get 6 to 7 landowners by the end of the year that are genuinely interested in the offer that we can put on the table.
And then I guess, although it is a large volume starting with, it gives you the option to pick and choose your favourite deals. You're not a motivated buyer, you've got a few things on the table and you can cherry pick what suits you, your timing.
That's it. The worst case scenario is we get far more deals back than we can build out, and we just push them through planning and sell them on.
Yeah.
We're finding that really important, just assessing a lot of deals at any one time, so you're not becoming particularly invested in any one deal that might not be quite right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from a funding point of view, this isn't going to be cheap when you get to the build stage, so how's that side of the business going to be formulated?
So we're looking at a couple of options. I mean, there's joint venture partners we've worked with in the past, so we're talking with them about bringing them in as well, and then we're also looking at crowdfunding.
Okay.
So for the equity part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be a new activity for us. We're still in early stages of looking into that, but we see that as being a really scalable option for us. Obviously, it's a growing industry as well.
There's been some real success stories recently within the property industry using crowdfunding, and it seems to be, once you've developed a brand for yourself, once you've got a proven track record, I mean, you guys have built stuff out in the past, so you've got that experience, you're likeable enough, you seem like reasonable. But yeah, it is very much, again, that's not necessarily a spreadsheet exercise, that is about building a brand, developing relationships, and even when you look at like Nicole Bremner on her crowdfunding, a lot of work goes in prior to actually launching that campaign. So
nurturing the investors, the relationships.
Yeah. It'd be a whole new ballgame for you guys to learn and get experience in.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so there's a lot of new things we need to learn, definitely.
Interesting. So coming back to the financial side of things, then does that alter the £12,000 per month target? It looks like with these, if you get up to 8 rent to rents, that'll maybe be £5,000 roughly. You've got the commercial conversion that's almost finished, so that maybe add another £1,000-1,500 a month to that.
We ran the figures before this, and I think currently this year we've added kind of 6k once the commercial conversion that we're doing
Yeah.
now comes on, we've got the rent to rent, and we bought 3 flats in a block in March as well. That was a quick repossession sale that we got hold of at a great price, and definitely we'll only be left with kind of 10-15k left in it, and it'll cash flow about £1,000 a month. So
Superb.
we jumped on it quick, and it was it was worth it. So with that, we're up at about, it was about 80 quid short of £6,000, wasn't it? Like currently,
we won't quibble over that.
Come on, I'm happy with that. And then going forward, there's more rent to rents on that, which will come in and push that a bit higher. And then realistically, if we got one of the land deals signed up, that would blow the 12k a month out of the water on its own, essentially. So
in terms of future projections, because I remember you said that at the start of the year as well. It wasn't necessarily about cash in the bank; it's about knowing that pipeline is there.
Knowing that the future was there.
With these developments, then you're thinking of retaining the units, a build-to-rent strategy, so that you do have residual cash flow.
If they made sense, we would. Yeah, the ones we're looking at the moment, there's only one which makes sense, but it's the local occupancy restriction one.
Okay.
I don't actually think we can retain them for rent. I think they do need to be sold. Yeah, we're still trying to work that out. But yeah, the other ones are kind of large family homes that don't really stack up on a
But we'd certainly consider using any profit from that activity in build-to-rent projects. Whether we source them or we find them on market, that's something we're definitely looking at.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, it's been great to catch up with you guys. Just before we wrap up completely, we've obviously got the Living Smart branding in the background. If people are interested in finding out a little bit more, as I always say at the end of the shows, in what you've been up to, what you've got going on, if they want to have a chat with you about projects or potentially working with you, where can they get more information? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so there's the website, that's just www.livingsmart.co.uk.
Yeah.
We're on Facebook as well, so you just search Living Smart on Facebook, we're on there. We've both got our own individual profiles on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
My email address, ben.thorns, THORNS, @livingsmart.co.uk.
And mine's just thomas.thorns at livingsmart.co.uk as well. Happy to field calls, emails, anything.
That's what I was going to ask. In terms of value for you guys, what are you looking for from people? What is helpful to you? Is it potential joint venture partners? Is it people who are interested in development, people with land to sell?
Yeah,
all of the above.
Yeah, absolutely. Always willing to talk to people. Yeah.
I've been chatting with a few other developers recently and got a lot out of that both ways. So definitely happy to chat to other people that are doing developments, new build, developments to sell, joint venture partners as well. We're already working with a couple. So yeah.
Superb. Okay, well, we'll wrap this up there. We'll come back and catch up with Ben and Tom again in December. If you're watching this, I hope you've enjoyed the video content side of things. Mixes it up a little bit from the audio experience. If you're listening to this, then we'll get this up on YouTube. We'll share it across Facebook, both channels, so you can catch up with the video there. And yeah, look forward to catching up with you both again in another 6 months and seeing how your year wraps up. But from what you've said so far, it looks like everything's going phenomenally well for you. So yeah, congratulations and keep it up.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.